is a performance expert. She is India's first internationally acclaimed woman motivator, a best-selling author, a TEDx speaker, and has worked globally, including having worked with Olympic athletes. One of her key attributes is to help people peak their performance. I've already had several good chats with her, so exchanged some great ideas, and I'm extremely glad Abha is with us today to share her thoughts about how we need to prepare for the West. Both Abha and me are of this opinion that once this COVID situation gets into control, the West of the world, which is America, Europe, UK, are all going to be looking at India very positively, and a lot of work is going to be coming into India. Now, just by having work coming to us, it's not enough. It's also important to understand what kind of opportunity is going to come and how do we need to prepare for ourselves for that opportunity. So Abha has got a few ideas. She shares these ideas on the basis of her experience. Please do feel free to ask her questions. Abha, over to you.
Thank you, Rashesh. Hi, everybody. If you can hear me, I would really appreciate that you please put your questions out there. As I'm speaking, you can ask questions, and I'll also would be asking things back from you. So let's keep it interactive. Let's keep it a little bit of fun, and let's keep it slightly informal because we've got 45 minutes to cover something really interesting in terms of an opportunity which is coming up, which I thought would come up after 3 to 4 years when we would be facing what do you call AI and artificial intelligence, because we would be in a similar position where the whole way of working would change. So now today when we're talking about this, I'm very glad that you all of you are here and I'm able to speak to people who are interested in this topic, because this is one of the biggest opportunities that is coming up there, which a lot of people do not know, because the regular focus in around this area was on China being the workshop of the world. Now imagine India becoming the workshop of the world after COVID, or in a couple of months, thanks to what's happening now in the way India is handling the COVID situation, or for that matter, how the government is functioning and inviting people into the country. Now what we have to look at, because I'm going to use the word Asia often because I've been working in Asia and different parts of Asia over culture and all those things. And the one thing that I figured, and I want all of you to please see that, because all these big companies have a footprint in Asia. Now, when the footprint shifts from Asia, any parts of Asia to India, the whole focus will shift on the culture, because culture of a country is going to be an extremely big point that will be reflected in the workplace. So how are we deemed? How are we perceived? How are we seen? How do we see the world? How do we see the West? How does the West see us? These are all very important things. So I'm going to be touching upon a couple of things today, and I've called it the ABC model, so that we all remember and you can retain what we spoke of today. And of course, we'll have questions after this. And midway, if you want to ask something, I'm going to be asking you if there's something that I feel that you need to be engaged in. So for the Westerners, my experience, because I've had the opportunity not just to work with them, for them, and around them, and especially with my motivational speaking, whatever else I do, I get an opportunity to work with a lot of people who are in the West. So there is a huge difference. Okay, there's a huge difference in the way they perceive work and in the way we perceive work here in India. Now, where is the opportunity? The opportunity is that when this footprint comes into India, we have the skill sets, we have the numbers, we have the technologies, we have the education. The only gap that remains is around the people, if at all. It even may not happen, because once it's systemized, we understand system, we do a very good job of that. And all of us are moving out of India to work in different parts of the world because we can understand systems. But if they came in here, or if it was outsourced to us, or if we were in a position to have a very decentralized work environment, what are we supposed to do at that point of time? And what do we need to consider as the important points to know? Knowledge is power, and applied knowledge is more powerful, and it is the need of the hour at this point of time. Any of the people over here have heard of the word called a game called Tilt? T-I-L-T. Rashesh, have you heard of the word Tilt?
Honestly, I have not heard about the game called Tilt.
Okay, no. Okay, no. Okay, let me tell you. Tilt is a very powerful, very popular game, which is a board game, which is used usually in China and the Eastern countries, and the West studies that game. Okay, the game is a board game in which there are two players. One is the one player, it's played between two people, and the board is laid out in which the first part is putting obstacles on the board, and the board is tilted at a 45 to 90-degree angle in such a way that the opposite side, that the second side is going to remove the obstacles and bring the board back to level. Okay, so this is the game. Obstacles come in the form, this is an old time game, like old villagers used to play this. So how do I say in India, how do we play this? हमारे यहाँ वो चक्की जो खेलते हैं, तो वो चक्की जैसा है वो गेम है. So it is tilted at a 45-90-degree angle and obstacles are placed over there. This is the first team on the board, and Westerners look at this as locals. Okay, when they study the game, so we are the people who are perceived as slightly suspicious. So like, I hope everybody will take this with a pinch of salt. This is not something true. This is a perception about us, which we need to face and tackle and sort of cross over in case we need to make use of this opportunity. So now this game, this board is tilted and obstacles are put over there for the other team to remove the obstacles, and then the board comes to level. So obstacles in, like if you see in India or Asian countries, what are we perceived as? Poor legal systems, intrusive governments, all kind of restrictions and this and that. So they consider these obstacles on the board game as those. Now the second team comes in, and the second team is the foreigners, the Westerners who come in into different parts of Asia and work, and they have to keep removing these obstacles. How do they remove these obstacles in the real world? Is by giving us what they have with them to offer, that is choices, their brand, their technologies or whatever. You know, and then it becomes a negotiation board, and the level playing field happens when all these obstacles are removed by giving the offer by the foreign companies or whatever, and then come to a place where they can enter into Asia and work with the local people. Now this game, if you will go and Google this, this is one of the oldest games which is understood, which is the way people also consider the West. The same game is used in our training. So we spend about a day on this. When we do this workshop around corporate cultures, we spend an entire day putting people through simulated problems or obstacles and simulated solutions for people to be able to see how to function in a space of complete chaos. So it's like a chaos. It's a janbooch ke problems. You know, deliberately they put it over there to see how the other party is going to bring up the solution. So solution is nothing but the more you offer, the one obstacle is removed, the more you offer. So it's a price negotiation. It's a pure business kind of game. So tilt is how the West learns about us. You know, so this is interesting because it makes us look like quite shrewd people, but we in this side of the world, we don't consider ourselves as shrewd as people in the West. Why are we considered shrewd? Because we negotiate really hard and on the small stuff, and we are able to do that, and we are able to stonewall, and we are able to, because why does that happen? Because of the way we are growing up in our cultures. All culture is reflected in the workplace, so we need to start seeing things from that perspective, that every workplace is going to reflect upon the culture of that country or that region, and how society conducts business in that particular country. Now think of this, that when the Western, all MNCs, big MNCs have footprints in Asia. What do they do over there? They first try, they train the people, and a lot of training goes around this. Then they create their own culture. They found a solution to it. So Facebook has their own culture, which is the same culture which is followed in the United States. Same culture would be followed in Singapore. Same culture would be being followed in India. So if we have a Zappos culture, we have a Google culture, we have a Facebook culture. So they have found a solution that if we were to align people coming from different environments and to be aligning them to a mission or a vision, they have to have a culture of their own. This is how they've solved the problem. But when we come to places like ourselves, in India, for example, the work culture is, as compared to the West, quite different. It's not the same. And I'm going to touch upon, like I said, ABC version. I'm going to touch upon three key areas, which all of us, I think, should need to know. We probably already know that, because if we are not working with them, we'll never address them. But if we know them now and we are in a position to address them and tactfully understand how to solve that issue, we'll be in a very, very great place. So tilt is the way they look at us. So we have to now also fight a perception over here. But we have to take into account the reality. We have to take into account the perception and both, and figure where we fit the whole thing in. So they're also scared of us. Let me tell you this, because they're always fearful of either overshooting or undershooting. Yeah, tilt is one. Yeah, so it's a board game. You can find it on Google. And fighting perceptions, looking at the reality, and knowing that there is some level of superiority and there is some level of inferiority, because they do not know our cultures well enough to do exactly what they do in America or in Europe or in UK. Okay, so culturally they are very scared of us, scared to make the mistakes of the kind, because they put in a lot of money, but if the results don't come, they feel very scared, and they're not able to tackle people at the local levels. Now, here is the East, people like us who live in nature, who live alongside nature, who are into community living, who are nice people, who believe in goodness and all those kind of things. And the West clearly believes in conquering nature. There is extreme emphasis on individual achievement. Now you put the two of them together, this looks like a total polar opposite of each other. And how do we then tackle that if we have to put with each other? Because by the time this man is going to run in, and they just rush into everything, and they're all hungo about everything, very excited, very, very loud sometimes. Some people sure how to move, because our systems are slightly not ineffective, but slightly circular, because we go this way rather than going from A to B. So this is the way things work in different parts of the world. So let me take you to the ABC version. So if you have a pencil, you could please make a note of this, because these are the things that we focus on in our seminars, in our workshops, and all those things happen. But their approach to authority, the boss concept, is compared to us absolutely the opposite. Because in their society, there is no boss. They're all individuals. They can talk to each other like individuals. The child talks to the father as if they're talking to a friend. A kid can talk to a senior from their own individual ways of being. And it's very easy to express yourself, because that's how they work. They talk, they make mistakes, they criticize, they do all those things. This is a normal thing. It's not even in their workplace. This is the way they normally live. Now bring it to an Indian workplace or a Japanese workplace. Criticism is unthinkable in Japan. You have to even use words which show a level of respect. The kind of words you use to talk to people, it shows respect, and those words are noticed. It's that strong in culture in Japan. And if it was in for example in India, if we were to speak loudly to somebody, if we were to criticize somebody, we'll think 100 times. अच्छा, किसी का माइक खुला है, पापा मम्मा बात कर रहे हैं. No problem. Okay, so now, having said that, in the West, we have very flatter corporate structures. They're flat corporate structures. So they're not like hierarchical. And this is the most important part to understand in terms of how we approach our workplaces, how our business systems are created, and how their business systems are created. So in a flat corporate structure, for example, the boss is part of the team. But in our case, if I were to say, this whole chain of command is very clearly defined. Not so in the West. If you've seen pictures of Mark Zuckerberg, he's sitting on a desk alongside everybody else in his office, and he's Mark Zuckerberg. But if we were to go in our offices, our directors or our top shelf people, the CEOs are not even available to meet you or talk to you. So this is not because there is something wrong with us and something right with them, or something wrong with them or something right with us. This is the way our workplaces work. Now, if an American comes into an Indian company and wants to walk into the CEO's office and say, hi, XYZ, I have a problem and I want to speak with you about it. And can we just sit over a cup of coffee now, or maybe in 15 minutes? I don't think it will be accepted very easily over here, because of the hierarchy and the seniority of the person and the chain of command. So we have got layers and layers of inflection points which stop or slow down the process of people communicating with each other in an office or in a workplace, which is not so in the West. And in our case, the workplaces, the chain of command, this whole concept of sharing is there. When you go into the West, like I said, individual functioning, People like to take ownership of what they are doing, and they want to do it by themselves. The credit of one person's work will only go to that person, and it will not go to the rest of the people. Over here, the divisions are not, the lines blur sometimes, because everything doesn't happen with one person. It happens either in teams, it happens in hierarchies, it happens in groups, and we are nice people. We don't want to go and take credit. We just say, no, it's okay, all of us did it together. Even if one person has done it, two people have done it, one person's idea, whatever you may want to call it, but it's different from compared to what is in the West. So there, if you see, seniors are literally marginalized, whereas in India or in East, seniors are respected. Now, these are a couple of things that we really, really need to know before we enter into a conversation with a Westerner who brings to the table something that they call, very strongly called, value. They are very supposedly value-driven people, very data-driven people. Everything is hypothesized, everything is analyzed. They spend a lot of time on clarifying. They go in depth. All the things that they do is in depth, and all the things that are decided, they're planned very well until they take action. So and now over here, we make a lot of plans, and all great plans, but the whole idea is very, very horizontal. So we make the plans, we finish off our work, and then we move to work. But given that in the West, there is an component of individuality, when they go in depth into it, the individual takes ownership of what needs to be done, and that is taken into the workplace with 100% full throttle responsibility as to how this needs to be done. So they check a lot of information, they hypothesize a lot of information, they like a lot of information, they work around it, they analyze it, they make ideas, they create concepts, they do all kinds of things for the action to become almost perfect for the 100% result. This is how they work, because they're working on the individual, and the individual to be executing that plan. We don't do that over here, because we are not, we all believe in good performance, but the performances are not as much focused on. We focus on the plan, then we focus on the work, and then we focus on the results, and then we analyze the results to see whether we did it fine or not. They do it prior, and we do it after. So this is something that we need to clearly understand. Now, this is part A. Okay. Now, if we come to part B, so approaching authority, that is one of the key things that we are very different from each other. The second part is building and bridging. That is B, building and bridging. Now, how do they build a business? We need to be able to see that, because if we work together with them, we need to understand clearly where they're coming from and what they're looking for when they're building a business. Now, when they build a business, the first thing that comes to mind is relationships. Okay. Now, when it comes to relationship, they are not inclined for any strong relationships in the workplace. They avoid building close relationships in the workplace, and it's a standard practice over there. You are told on your face that this is work and this is friends. This is work and this is you and me. This is work and you're not supposed to do this over here. But when we come to our side of the world, we sometimes allow, it's okay to make friends. There is some level of personal interaction that goes on. There is some level of, getting to know each other goes on. And it also breeds a lot of politics. So their politics is very different. It's a competitive politics. Here it comes to personal politics. So we need to avoid that at all costs when we are working with a Westerner. We cannot do that, because that's not something that is considered right or transparent or integrity driven when it comes to work. Always a heads up approach. Their approach to work is heads up. They just jump in. They jump in. Why? Because they're fully prepared. It's all been run through prior before they get into the job. Over here, we take it a little slow. So we go there. So if for example, somebody came if I went to work over there, and I'll be given the brief, I'll be given the time frame, I'll be given the instruction on what results they are looking for. I'll be sat down. They will discuss everything with me. They will check me out. They will check what I've understood. If there are any doubts, those will be clarified. And before I jump into the job, everything is literally run through on paper, in the mind, in words, in everything, so that when you go to the job, you are fully prepared mentally, emotionally, physically, environmentally to be able to function at your highest performance level. And within the time frame, we get the results. Not so much in the East. So if I were to work in Malaysia, for example, Malaysia, I've lived in Indonesia, I've lived in Singapore, I've worked in Malaysia, Hong Kong, Japan. Hong Kong, Japan, very, very strict. But if it were Malaysia, Indonesia, they're like us. There's chit chatting. There's people are, having a little bit of fun. There will be some lazy people in the midst of it, and it's okay as long as we go to the end and we get the results. And it's even all right if the results are not up to the mark. But if you go to the West, if the results are not up to the mark, it is one of the worst things that one can face over there. They do not entertain that idea. And I'm not saying that their results are 100%, but they do not entertain the idea of bad results. They do not like that. Therefore, we have to focus very clearly on the results, and the clarifications and the clarity has to come prior before we get into the job and jump in there. So they jump in and we don't like to jump in. We take a little time to get started. We think about it. We want to see that it is done well. We go over the place. So all those things have to be kept in mind. Now, if I said that relationships are not strictly professional in the eastern side of the world, leads to a lot of problems and leads to a lot of confusion, sometimes ambiguity. It leads to gossip. It leads to all kinds of things which is very highly avoidable. And that is what we need to be very, very careful of. Asking questions. We are like, if I'm in a webinar, you'll ask me questions. But if you're in an office and I was the boss, most people would be scared to ask a question with this mindset that I might get offended or I might not want to clarify something for the other person. And it is not considered very right unless and until we are in a setup where the questions are allowed. Normally, the questions are not asked. Not in Indonesia, not in Malaysia, not in Vietnam. We go to this side of the world, Hong Kong, etc. Very strict. I mean, the frameworks are there. But if you're in the West, asking questions is like the most normal thing to do. Nobody says no. Nobody likes the idea that the question should not be asked. They're fine. They're okay. And they, in fact, encourage questioning. In fact, you can question the whole idea. You can just rip off the whole idea and say, I don't like what you're saying. Irrespective of whether you're the boss, irrespective of whether you're senior, does not matter. The whole idea is that my work should get done well. If my work needs asking questions, if my work needs to be more clarification, if we need some more feedback, if we need some more material, if we need some more learning, we'll do all that. But we'll do that before we get into the work. And asking questions is a part of that. So they ask a lot of questions. Therefore, being prepared with our content or whatever we're trying to do is very, 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 very important. And this is one of the things that you need to remember. Now, when they start building the relationships and everything, the bridge also is built. How do they build the bridge? They build the bridge by becoming problem solvers. They are very, very, what word can I use for that? Very proud of the fact that we are solving problems. Now, with the last 10 years and 15 years, we've seen this entrepreneurial culture where this language has become common, that you solve a problem and you become an entrepreneur. You solve a problem for a billion people and you can $1 a person and you're a $1 billion worth. So this language is being used that solve problems for other people. And this is what they now use in the workspace. Everybody is striving, training, learning, and wanting to become a problem solver. This is how they bridge the entire workspace, by solving more and more problems. So every day a hypothesis would be done, a new problem would be brought up, and they will all sit together and solve the problem. So a lot of ideating, a lot of creativity, a lot of talk, and lot of problems are solved. Now, if we were to look at their social cultures, this is a normal way of doing things. They do these things normally. You pick up any Western television show, you pick up their news, look at the way they talk, because they in their social cultures, expression is all right. You can say what you want, you can feel what you want, you can say what you feel, And this is the language that is now brought into the workplace, and it is normal, commonplace to be using that language, and it's all right. Nobody feels bad about it. Now come to India. If I were to express my feelings and say I'm feeling awful about something, I'll think 10 times if I'm in India, because it amounts to some level of criticism. If I were to say I'm very sad, nobody will say it. We'll hide our feelings. We are not able to express how we're supposed to express. So what I did was that because I am a person of teaching expression to people, so I have to practice it myself. But then I have gone to different places and figured ways to communicate differently in different places so that the expression remains the same. The communication becomes a little bit different, but the message goes across. And we can't get angry in our country. We can't get angry in the office. You go to the West, you want to show your frustration, you want to show your anger, you want to say something to people, you can say it and go off. It's okay, doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. They take it in their stride. It's all right. This is the way they live, right? So here is the thing that we need to be very careful of. We don't do that. We don't express openly, and that is where the communications go wrong sometime, because the same people can take away something else from the conversation, which is not meant, or which is meant and which is not taken. So we need to be very clear on that part. uh, Whenever they solve these problems, there is this unconditional stewardship, ownership of what they're doing. They take complete responsibility of everything. You cannot give away, you cannot push it off, you cannot push off the burden or the blame on anybody else. So this is how they usually like to work. The next thing when bridging comes is money. The whole idea of business, they are very clear cut about money. It's a very straightforward, it's just a part of a business deal. It's based on intrinsic monetary value. That's why we're running businesses. Here we like to take a little bit of a backseat when it comes to talking money in the straight way. We like to talk around principles of money and what happens, so that that indirectness sometimes leads to ambiguous communication, where we are perceived as a little bit suspicious, which is probably not the case. It's just our cultural way of being. We don't talk openly about money. We don't talk openly about creating wealth. We don't socially. I'm talking about socially, not in the workplace. And that is carried into our workplaces. So uh, when the communication is open, a lot of trusting relationships and negotiations happen over there. In our case, it becomes very discreet, very secretive. So we need to now bridge this and say that we have to just create a different communication model for not to sound secretive, discreet, or suspicious in any way whatsoever, because money makes and breaks relationships. So it is and makes and breaks businesses. We need to be really, really careful about that, and we can clearly ask them to. And they like to put everything on paper. So good for us. We have to be able to put on paper and be able to then hold everybody accountable on that. And that accountability factor is very, 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 very important. So the approach to authority, building and bridging around relationships, problem solving, and money. The third part, the C part, is about communicating in the context. It is very important. And I was talking to Rashesh earlier the other day that the simpler part is, what about our etiquettes? Can we sit together and have fun because we are different? That is just one of the things that we need to be able to deal with. But other than that, communication becomes the key bridging factor between the East and the West when it is about work or workspace cultures. And I've had a very, very privileged sort of existence in Asia, that we actually work with some 10 odd big complete corporate cultures came in, and they were supposed to be working with Asians, and they did not understand how the Asians thought worked, because we can all dress up and go, we can all sit and have a cup of coffee in a cafe, we can all do our work when it's systemized. But when it comes to communication and doing things together, it becomes extremely difficult for people who are like open, and they are like open in the body, open in the speech, open in the expression, to come across Indonesians who are very shy, who have difficulty speaking English, who think 20 times before talking to a Westerner, who are scared to say what they want to say. So we have had the opportunity to put them together in the same place and create combine their culture, bring in the Indonesian local culture, and create a third culture. for them to be able to function together. So all of them understand each other. Understanding becomes very important. So we have touched upon a couple of things earlier. Understanding of those things and a deeper level will lead to um, a different communication if we did not understand what we were talking about. So communication happens. So what happens in communication? What happens in communication is very simple. Our dominant personality traits come up, right? So our dominant personality traits will come out through communication. And where do we get these dominant personality traits from? Our homes, for example, or our schools, or our society. Okay. Now I may be a certain kind of person. People on this webinar may be different kind of people. All of us are different people from different circumstances, different backgrounds, different households. We are sitting and listening to this particular webinar. We are listening from our own perspective. What everybody, each person takes from this webinar could be totally different from the other person. Why? Because we have a dominant personality trait which is receiving this information. Why this, and this personality will tell us why this information is useful to me, why, and why should I use this information, where could I use this information, why must I even spend 45 minutes on this. And this is, we are coming from that background, and the background will be listening to this webinar. You're just watching me, but you're also listening at the same time, and your dominant personality is going to tell you what part of the webinar is going to be useful for you. Now if I were to ask you to say the same thing back to me or the other people, you will only be saying things that you heard and what are useful to you, what are useful for your business, what are useful for the way you live, what you can relate to, cannot relate to. So the dominant personality traits all communications in the way we communicate with others. And it's not just the context, but the way we talk to each other. So that brings me to the next C, which is the context. That all conversations in the West are created around a context. They put the context first before they start the conversation. So if we were to, I'm sure there's some MBAs on board here. We are there are classes on critical thinking, which will talk about context. Without a context, all communication is useless. And this is what we do in the East. We and not particularly in India, I'm talking about. There is a lot of small talk here. According to us, when we reach out to people, we have to do some small talk, we have to some polite conversation, and so on and so forth. In the West, it is not always so. They create a context and they just jump into the context, and there is no way you can escape the context. You have to in context. So the word communication and context become very, very powerful in being able to understand. For example, we did nothing, we understood nothing from this webinar. We don't want to know those people, we don't know what they do. Even if we just understand the context of what is going on and go into the vertical deep level to see how they think, you will be in a position to get your results working with a Westerner or somebody from Europe, because that's how they think. There is a context, and then there is a deep dive into that context, and then they will have a very detailed multiple perspective conversation around it. All aspects of it will be touched upon, and if we're able to see that, it allows us to also become critical thinkers ourselves, because they use a lot of critical thinking and hypothesis when they're talking about things. Having said that, when I say dominant personality traits, one of the things that is very starkly different about us is our self-portrait. In Indonesia, for example, I've lived in Indonesia. If you go to Singapore, the expressions, people say this is what Singapore looks like. People are very stiff. People are very cold. They're a very business-like, and they're impressions of each country. You come to Indonesia, they'll be very laid back. They'll be smiling at you. They're very polite, but they are not deemed to be in-depth people. You go to Hong Kong, again, very business-like, but also very strict, very firm, very strategic. Move upwards to Japan. My God, I mean, it's difficult. You got to get into a different zone altogether to work in Japan, because their people also become they strive to become almost as good as a machine. So their mental states, their emotional states, their physical states, their work states, their performance states, everything is literally in order. That's how that's why, and that's how Japan is smarter than a lot of other Asian countries. So this is what we have to also look at. Self-portrayal by the Westerners is of, because I said individuality, I touched upon it, is very self-confident, very self-assured, very positive. That's how they sound. You meet them, hey, hi, hey, buddy, what's up? What's going on? And this is how they start talking. And so good to see you. How's been your day? And so you don't see a second of any hesitation in conversation or putting themselves out before the world. And they see things, they speak for themselves. This is how they live in their cultures. Even children talk like that. So it's not something that they're doing smarter than everybody else. That's their culture. And is fewer open discussions. By the time we open up, we've already spent 30 minutes, gauge what should we say, should people work on. There's a lot of training happening in Asia, and for people to be able to work at par with other people, because mentally they are at par, educationally they are at par, technologically they may be ahead, they may be smarter, but there is this gap of communication where a person who comes from a social culture in the West is in a position to sound more confident as compared to a person from India who's come maybe from the south of the country, who has an issue with fluent English, for example, which is a normal problem. It's not a big issue. It's not a big issue here. It should not be a big issue for anybody as long as you're getting the job done. But it does give the power away in a conversation, in a communication, to the other side who's more confident. So we like to maintain harmony. We like to avoid conflict. So we don't like difficult conversations. We are not made like that. We don't talk like that. This is not the way our society works. Therefore, our workplaces also do not work in the same way. This is one big difference that needs to be figured out. Emotions at workplace, like I mentioned earlier, they are okay. You can express anger, frustration, you can fight, you can call somebody names, and then you can pat each other's back and work. It is all in the context of work and for purposes of improvement. That's how it is deemed. Here, if you use the same frustration, express your anger, do what, the person is judged as not a well-behaved person. So what it does to the person is makes them hesitant in using their expression in a proper way. Again, it becomes a communication issue and can be solved very, very easily. So we can now, if we have seen this, there is this approach to authority, building the business while we build the relationships, become problem solvers, and we become people who consider money as something that we should talk about and work around that, and communicating about a context and making sure that we go in depth into that to be able to communicate about that context in 100% way. So there is no way we cannot work with anybody in the world, part of the world. This workplace with developing people. What we measure is to bring about peak performance and emotional intelligence seminars to a point that the person's self-awareness is becoming higher and their communication become equal to people who are standing next to them. So we stand everything else. If we are not fully aware of our strengths and how we go about communicating through a problem, through a context, through a circumstance, or through a situation, we will not be in a position to find ways to align ourselves with what is going on, to differences of cultures. So I'm completely by working on context and mastering communication at every level, cultural level, personal level, social levels, work levels, and expertise levels. No way we can be beaten. So, Rashesh, I'd like to stop here.
Great, thank you, Abha. I really appreciate the way you've put this across to everybody. Putting it across in a simple way, which is the ABC format, without actually telling people who's right and who's wrong. Normally, when we talk about the West, we try and talk about how better they are than us, and the way you put it up is that they're just different. And I think that will bring a lot of acceptability. I can already see a couple of questions coming in. There is Shaunya Srinivas. Shivas, who's asking a question. She's asked a question saying, how do we strike a balance and put our best foot forward? What, according to you, is the right way to behave in a professional relationship?
It's your voice rolled. Can you just come again with the...
The question is on the chat, Abha. The question is on the chat.
Okay, one sec. Oh, yeah.
Friends, if you guys have any questions, it would be a good idea to put in the chat.
Yeah, please, can you put in the chat now? I'm on the chat, I can see you guys. Okay. Ma'am, I beg to differ on the work culture in the West. There is a bureaucracy that we can't think about it. I agree. We haven't touched upon that, Manish, because we have very, very limited time here. So these are actually different. That's their workplace. It's not workplace culture. The bureaucracy there is more to do with their local politics. That's the way the political and corporate system works. So I haven't touched upon that. I agree with you, by the way. And hi, Rima. Let me answer Shanaya's question. Shanaya Shrivas. Rashesh, I'll take up from what you just said, that there is actually no right and wrong. Both the places have their strengths and weaknesses. And I started by saying that they're scared of us in some form. We do believe they're better. And I would say in some ways they are. And why they are better is only because their action taking capacity is better than ours. Why their action taking capacity is better than ours is because they prepare their action way better than we do. So when I was talking about peak performance earlier, I've worked with Olympians. If they do not strike in that 8-minute bout in the boxing ring, the country loses. So we need to be prepared for 8 years before we can go into that 8-minute bout. And that's how the American mindset works. They prepare very well for everything in the workplace. So Shaya, we strike a balance with the best for what, according to you, is the right way to behave in relationship. Are you asking this, Shaya, as a, is it, I hope it's not a man-woman thing. Because striking a balance is like I mentioned, we need to be prepared around the context. Number one, we must always, I mean, if anything that goes out of this webinar, the context is very, very, very important for everybody. And I think in every circumstance, it should be. It should not be lost in any way whatsoever. So if we were to stick around the context, we will be in a position to strike that balance, that where we feel that maybe we don't do it very well, maybe we are not right enough, maybe we are not good enough. No, none of those things matter if you are able to get the context correctly. So this is one of the things that you have to understand, strike a balance. You need to work on the thing. They come very well prepared. So apart from the fact that they are socially very open-minded, open-talking, and they sound a lot better than they actually may be, they come very well prepared. So one of the things that we always need to do is be very, very well prepared around the context that is in question at that point of time. And how do we behave in a professional relationship? Be good and be as decent as possible. Be as respectful as possible. We have to be careful, very careful about what they say, what you hear, what you respond. And yeah, that's about all. And if you're prepared with your part of the game, if you're prepared with your part of the tilt game that we talked about earlier, I think you'll be in a good place. So let me know if I've answered your question, in case I have to say something. Rima, you're based out of Kolkata. Do you think if manufacturing sector comes to India post this phase, will Kolkata be in the map too? Kolkata, see, there should not be any reason why Kolkata can't be, but given the politics of that part of the country, I right now would not want to comment on it, because a lot depends on the politics of that region. So, but the way the the government is working around this, because the manufacturing sector, like I said, workshop of the world was China. Think of India as the workshop of the world. So if Calcutta, Kolkata, Bengal is providing what it's needed, because a lot of things go into the game when things are brought into a state. A lot of government intervention happens. So I would base it on the politics of the region. So I don't think I can answer that question. Manish, you said Westerns speak directly. If no, whereas Indians generally are not. Yes, the other person has to understand what he's trying to say. How we put across things for better understanding. Okay, the question is, how do we put across things for better understanding? You've answered the question. We need to be more direct. We need to be very clear and not ambiguous in what we are trying to say. We need to also to be like I mentioned earlier, context. What happens when the way we communicate, we look like, first of all, it looks like we are inconfident, we are confused, and the second thing, it looks like, there's some ambiguity, we are hiding something, which is probably not the case. It's only about communication. So as direct as we can, as clear as we can be, as candid as we can, and talk. I mean, I don't think the world doesn't fall down, the skies don't fall down if somebody like what we say. It's all right. And we can, if somebody doesn't like, we're sorry. If they say they're okay with the sorry, we explain. If they don't, example, my directness is welcome, and I'm hailed as somebody who plays well. Do the same thing in India. I cause so offense, blow myself down, and sort of cushion what I say, to be able to understand, or not understand. I understand that, but to be able to make my communication more effective. So yes, we do need directness. We waste a lot of time not being direct. If we are expecting new opportunities, what are the skills we need to be prepared in new opportunities? Fair. This is 24336. I don't know who that is. So I don't know your name, 24336. But your question is very interesting. And I think everybody should be listening, should be having these questions to be able to focus on what kind of opportunities are going to come up now. Uh, Most of the opportunities that, as we see, because will be probably in the manufacturing, IT sector, technologies, those will be there. Consumables will be coming over here in some form, which are already existing in the country, but because of the online systems, online, the Amazon kind of business, the e-commerce business, e-commerce is going to rise big time, especially after the COVID. Now you see all of us are working online, and all of us are in a position to actually work. So things are going to change in the online and the e part of the world. When it comes to the ground, it's going to be manufacturing, and there's going to be a couple of businesses around infrastructure that's going to be coming in. So if you see the government plans around it, they have already planned around infrastructure and manufacturing. That is going to be happening over here. Most of the time, Anupriya, your question is, most of the time West pre-assumptions are so strong about East, especially about India, that most of the time they don't prepare to give projects to us. Yes. What could be the beginning conversation to tame this mindset of the West? Okay. I when I started, Anupriya, I said we will be fighting perception. Okay, this is the perception that you're talking about. Very, very obvious perception, and this is what we are supposed to break down. My personal experience has been so good at what you do. I mean, we don't go to them. They are very they like smartness. They call this word smart as if it is it's sold on eBay or something that we can just pick up and do. But they like to use this word, and smart is something that they like to work with, because they are very quick, and they are very perceptive. They are very communicative. And the moment we slow down on that, we become less smart. So we lose out on that. And these assumptions about India are not about around smartness also. It's about transparency. They believe that Indians are corrupt, which, in some cases it's right, in some cases it's not so right. So you got to prove your point. You got to keep fighting over that. You got to prove your point. And the only way that happens is that you work as well as them, to be able to trust and place that trust in us, that we will be able to deliver What are they looking for? They're looking for results. They're looking for delivery. If they find us not good enough to deliver on what we are saying or what is our product, we may be very good. I believe I'm very good at what I do, and everybody would believe so. That's why we are in the marketplace. We are doing our products. But if we are not able to convey that idea to anybody in the world, that I'm the best in my field and I can do this and this is what I can deliver, I'm not smart enough. They love the word smart, and it is their definition of smart, where I think we sometimes we lose because of our cultural conditioning, of our nicety, of our being quiet, of our being nice, and saying the nice things and the not and listening to the not so nice things and not answering and not responding because we feel somebody will get hurt. We have to just get past that phase in our lives and just get down to the work, get down to the context and beat the context. I think that's very important. uh you're welcome, Shanaya. You're welcome, Rima. Nitin, what do you think apart from culture? What are the skills we need to adopt to face Western businesses? Okay, I've just mentioned this. Uh, you need to be literally your best self. Perfect. You need to be competing with you have got to look in the mirror. Imagine a Westerner standing in front of you and you're fighting with that person and winning. We do that exercise in our seminars actually. uh, like I said, we are not in any way unsmart or lesser than anybody. Our cultural conditioning makes us less communicative and less expressive as compared to people in the West. So if I were to say this, the you are an expert at your subject and you were to communicate and express that subject as your expertise just as best as anybody else in the world, I do not think you cannot compete or beat a Westerner. Their advantage over us is their culture, where they are able to talk, and because of their research capacities, because of the way they work and function, it's become like they know everything about their subject, and we fall short because despite knowing everything, we don't speak, we don't go out, we shy, we don't like to say things very much, and we are still thinking of whether it's the right thing to say, the wrong thing to say. You should know what the right thing to say is. Go ahead and say it, and if somebody objects to it, fight it. It's okay, doesn't matter. In the end, it all ends where you get it on your side of the table. That's it. So the whole thing has to be tilted towards you, so you understand the tilt game. You'll be able to see how it works. It's quite easy. uh Chandrasekhar, hi Chandrasekhar, you haven't written anybody except your name. So hi. And Abhishek, I have one question, would like to ask the same. Yes. Chandrasekhar's question has come. Okay. Specific domains which may have more opportunities positionally. Okay, this is a question of actually quite a few things out there, but um, maybe let me answer this a little bit later, because this I can give you specific answers by going through some specific research around it. I suggest you go to the websites of the big fours. Go to the BCG website, Boston Consulting. Go to Accenture's website. Go to Pricewaterhouse websites. They've already put that up, the specific domains which are and the kind of new opportunities that are coming up, and how you could best position yourself given whatever product or service that you're selling. Where could you plug your product and service in those specific domains? So it's a long list that I don't think this is the right place to answer, but I'm giving you a lead to where you can find this. Ramesh, what about other countries who are competing with us for outsourcing projects like Philippines and other Southeast? Here we have an advantage, Ramesh, because we are the only country which is a primarily English-speaking country. The education levels are much higher over here. The understanding of business technology is much higher over here. Like if you were to say Philippines, Vietnam, these are all they are equivalent to somewhat, if we were to look in our country, they're equivalent to the way people would look at Nepal. Somewhat 20 years behind this thing. So the manufacturing sector, where the what kind of manufacturing, not the big manufacturing, not the machine or AI manufacturing, not the technology thing, but the smaller manufacturing can go to these places. But when it comes to education, we have an advantage, and the language advantage over here. The education levels are very, very high as compared to these levels in India. Therefore, we have an advantage when it comes to outsourcing. Though they are doing it in Philippines, they are doing it in Malaysia. There are pockets actually. So it's not like the only problem India has is India is not trusted very well. Indian people are not supposed to be very honest, and this perception needs to be really kept in mind when we deal with people. So if you fix a meeting with them, go there on time. If you say something, please do that. If you say you're going to send some information, please send that. You know, build a level of trust with them. We are not trusted very much, and it takes a long time to then prove to them that you are trustworthy, and that's where also we lose a lot of business. And this outsourcing is done. Philippines, they go because it's cheaper than India at this point of time. So if Philippines is not better than us, it's just cheaper. So we'll have to figure out the price factor as well, if we are talking of that. Will this opportunity, Chandrasekhar is asking, lead us to a $5 trillion economy? Ah, it will just become one of the things. One of the things, not all, because the 5 trillion is not based out of this. 5 trillion is being planned on various other aspects of the resource base of the country, how the country's major interests, whether it is business infrastructure, whether it is the e-commerce infrastructure. This is going to help. I'm sure this could, in some way, make the dent to do that workshop. The workshop of the world comes to India, and a lot of opportunity will come, and a lot of uh, diverse opportunity will come. A lot of decentralized opportunity is going to come. So it doesn't necessarily have to come to the government. It could come straight to a company involvement, whatever that. Emotional intelligence training is going to be very big, because a lot of people will need to be trained to work across cultures. A lot of cultural understanding will have to happen. A lot of cross-cultural business will be happening. And if we were looking at cross-culture, we can create cultural businesses, and that is yet another opportunity for entrepreneurs. So yeah, I'm looking at some myself. So I'm kind of keen to learn that myself. I'm learning myself. Okay, Seema Dosi, please suggest the way how flat and hierarchical organizational cultural difference can be managed. Seema, interesting question. I think I cannot go into a detail, but just imagine that you're sitting with your family and cousins. Okay, so and we are all friends, and we are talking about something that we all know, and we are able to pull each other's legs, and we are able to pat each other back. That is a flat kind of atmosphere. But imagine that you were in a now you're in a school or a college, and only at the student level you're friends, but the moment the student level goes away, you get to the teacher level, you become less friendly. From the teacher level to the lecturer level, less friendly. From there to the head of the institution, even worse, because you cannot communicate as much with a lower level. So now if we were to come from this family mahal to a college mahal, how would you change that? So you need to manage that by understanding the difference, and understanding to what level, where these hierarchical levels are there. Each inflection point needs to be treated differently. Each inflection point needs to be communicated with in a different way for it to become more flatter, and for our communication and work and our expertise to go across to the other side. That's the only way we manage our communication at every inflection point, and understand the context, make it relevant, make it valuable, and make it happening for both the sides, and understand what the other person is looking for. So if we were to talk to a head of the department of the university, you will have to understand his level of intelligence, his level of knowledge, before you go up to him and say something to him, because it will not strike him as interesting if you come from the student level. So if you were to really make a dent into the head of the department's head, you have to be able to understand his perspective, and that only makes us grow and more intelligent, and we should work on that. That's it. uh, Please keep telling me if your questions are answered. If you have to do something, if I have not been able to answer, please also tell me that. Matt says, so true, forget the West, even so many countries in the East don't trust the world. Yeah, sad part about us. The moment you tell somebody uh, that I'm from India, so it's like, for me it's nice, because they like the whole. I'm sorry, I don't know if I can bring it up in this webinar. There's this big fascination around Indian women. our skin color, and they don't think we are intelligent. They don't think we know anything. They don't think so. They are basically they are awed by the fact that people, there are some people who come in here and can make an impact. So because I speak there in the US and other places, so for me it's the same if I speak here or I speak in India or anywhere in the world, because I work around a particular subject, so that I only talk around that context. So it doesn't matter to me whether I'm wherever part of the world. But they look through that perception. Talk about Indian men, they are not considered honest. And they are not, I don't know if they're very right or very wrong. We don't like to be called dishonest in any way, but I think they have their own experiences around working with India and in Indian and with Indians. If you see in the US, a lot of Indian people are citizens over there. They are not considered very trustworthy by society over there. It's sad. So I'm sure they've done something. So I think each point we should create trust. We should be from our side absolutely integrity driven, transparent, and be very clear on what we are talking about and deliver on that. Period. And we really don't have to take it to our heart that they don't think we are trustworthy. If we do our job well, if we are, they trust us with something, we are able to deliver. Matter ends. I mean, we are not the, we cannot become the brand ambassadors of the entire Indian society. Very difficult. And Indians themselves have created a lot of nuisance everywhere. And it's not just Indians, a lot of other people. So we are not alone. And it's not because of anything else, because we are living in societies, we are developing countries, we are surviving countries. We are at a place of very critical spaces where we are, some of half our countries are only surviving. So people tend to say things that they don't mean. People tend to do things that they don't mean. And in the West, they're already very settled down. If they don't work, the government is going to pay for them. So they can say what they want to say. We still have to watch out for what we are saying because it affects our lives and work. So that is the reason, but that's a deeper reason. We can discuss it at a different place. Over here, it's maybe we can come back again and talk about that. It's a very, very deep and top shelf topic on my mind. Abhishek Chumble. In the past, my experience with American European people is that they trust us fully in our work. However, sometimes they cross-check the facts with other team members. Yeah, can you throw some light? Yeah, see now, why should there be a problem if they cross-check? If they're trusting us with the work, there is in every corporate there is a feedback mechanism. You know, even in our corporates, we have whistleblowers. I'm on one of the company's boards, where when we sit in the board meeting, there is a whistleblower, you know, who are people who give a lot of feedback into the thing. It's, and they mainly, they will trust your work. But if you were in that company and you have given away your work to somebody, there is an absolute necessity for them, for anybody, even my company, your company, we will want to see if the person is doing a good job, number one, and whether the person is an all right person. Can we trust the person with more? The positive part is that they will see if the person is doing it well, they are honest, they are delivering, they are doing it right, they are saying what they're doing, they're walking the talk. There's an opening for more work to come to you. We always do the check. You know, in the, like I said, whistleblowers are there. Then there are systems, anonymous systems are there for feedback. We have appraisals, we have performance appraisals. HR people have a lot of performance appraisals, and other appraisals are going on to see where people stand in the company and how useful they are to the company. So that happens everywhere. So fact checking is like sometimes maybe sounding like they don't trust us, but I think if you're doing a job fine, let them check. Who cares? I don't care about when they check. Go check. They keep checking, and they keep, you know, they keep bringing up something to find ways to do a deeper insight into you as a person. They love to go this way. You know, everything about you will be checked. They'll talk to you. They'll understand what you think, what you're doing. So I don't think that should be a big issue. It is not always a question of trust there. It's more about getting the right kind of feedback. Shania, post COVID-19, do you think world's perception of China would change? And will that be beneficial to India? If yes, and then how? Yes, absolutely. It's not even the perception of China. I think the way the disease has spread over there, a lot of people may not want to work with China anymore. And that is going to be one person's disadvantage is another person's advantage, we're going to be getting the benefit of that, because the ground has already been laid out for people to come to India. And I would not call it the political scenario, but the socio-economic and international trade scenario has shifted towards this side of the world, especially India wanting to become one of the global powers in the next 10 to 20 years. Now, this can be huge at this point of time, and this is how it's going to be beneficial, because the most of the opportunities, primary opportunity in China is manufacturing. So with Make in India, do you think a lot of manufacturing could come here? Now the government is focusing on ease of business. The government is focusing on centralizing taxation. The government is focusing on demonetization, so that all the transactions could be centralized. So you can imagine, and why are they doing this? Because they want to invite the West. This is how it works in the West. We can't make it more difficult for them to come and work over here. We have to make it easier for them, and the best way to do is do it as they do. So this part has already happened. Single window taxation has already happened. Ease of doing business, all systems are being cut out. The laws are being reframed for people to be able to see. And so all those things are happening at this point of time. We are still, I think, in the phase of transition, and we will be in a position to have a clear cut understanding of how things are going to pan out in the next 2 3 years. So I think post COVID, India, the way it has handled it, the whole world is looking at us, and I think we've done a fantastic job to literally, I mean, look at the deaths in US, look at the deaths in Germany, you see everywhere, and look at the number here. So it's we've done better than everybody else. So I think that's good. New Zealand has done it better than us. There's only one death there till yesterday. So they have done better than us. That's supposed to be the best country in the world. So compared to the other ones, India, as compared to the West, has done better. So you can imagine what it means in terms of being able to handle a crisis or a change. And it's people like normal people like us who are doing it. So a lot of trust building is happening through this process, which is good for all of us. Manish, what new job period? I think I've answered that earlier. Job opportunities. Job opportunities. Okay, this is a difficult one, because this is, and it's also very varied over there. I don't think I can answer this at this point. But post COVID-19, I think again online jobs will become very easy to get, or easy to. A lot of them will come up, and again, what we're doing just now, teaching will happen, training will happen, and I believe also that visual learning, television and visual medium would also become uh, bigger than this. And all these people, see how they're benefiting Netflix and all these other small OTT platforms. They are being used at this point of time. Right now, people are only using it for entertainment. But given the situation like this, and in 2 3 years, if the artificial intelligence happens, we are going to be using these mediums more for our day-to-day lives. So learning is one of the big things that's going to be happening. Learning and education is going to come. New job opportunities in online learning and education. I think I can see that very clearly. Disha, post-pandemic, will the pattern and working conditions all over the globe going to change? Health regulations will be a key focus everywhere. Yes, Disha, you're right. I think we are, now that we're more aware of this kind of a pandemic running through our lives, I think the overall hygiene, overall health thing will become a priority at workplaces and in general, which is actually a good thing, which is actually a very good thing, and which will not just prevent pandemics or diseases in future, but will make us all healthier, and that's a good thing. So that'll make us more comparable in terms of hygiene and health as compared to the West. If I were to take that context in, that in the West, this whole it's very hip hop and fancy when we see from here. What is hip hop and fancy? They're very clean. They love the idea of hygiene, and because they've already gone 200 years ahead of the world, and talking about these things, because that those survival times are over, the fighting times are over, and so now they're in a better place. So tomorrow, if we were in that same place, are we not doing it in our own homes, that we are now focusing on hygiene as a thing that we put our mind to. Otherwise, we didn't do that. There are normal hygiene things we do. Health, we've suddenly come into the place we have to start thinking of health in a totally different way. So from here on, even the smallest cough and cold will be looked into very seriously, and making sure that nobody is caught into it. So how much health is going to happen after that? That's a thing to watch. But I think it's a good thing. And pattern working conditions. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of focus is going to come on health and cleanliness, hygiene, plus communicating with each other around this and helping each other. The whole idea of community has come up, and how we can help each other, how we should help each other. We are thinking of helping each other. We find it now. Otherwise, we won't even talk to a neighbor. We don't have time for that. But now we are in position. We are also thinking on those lines that yes, I mean, it was so easy to help my neighbor. It's so easy to ask somebody how they are. It's so easy to say, okay, let's help each other by keeping a distance. It's now there has become a common thing that we're looking at, and looking at each other, because each other, we all have to save each other from each other. So we're looking at each other, which is, I think, a good thing. India will become a lot better in terms of people becoming friendly with each other. We are not very friendly. We fight a lot. Sunil. Sunil, this is a very interesting question. We've all done that, no? Now, I don't know if I want to answer this over here. They are meticulous in everything, and that's how they project themselves, right? And that's how we all think that they're better than us. That's how they all think that the rest of the world is less than them. But this meticulous, they missed out on this one. Okay, even now, if you see the way they're handling the COVID crisis, it is not as good as it is being done in India. The way it has been taken up by the government over here, it's like sincere and severe crisis management. And I really believe a lot to learn from here in terms of crisis management. They have missed out because of the politics around it, and they would not have if it wasn't the politics. So I think it's not a question that can be relevant. It's a very political, socio-political question, and I think it's a border issue, which is something that multiple issues there in the US around this. So I think I would not want to answer this here. Maybe privately, if you would talk to me, we could have a chat over this. Rahul, we Indians under-evaluate others and tend to be sly than transparent in our community. Yeah, I think, Rahul, we've spoken about it. I don't like the word sly. Sly means we intend to be communication and clear intent. We do not say, I mean, we do not say what we want, because not being shy. Why are we shy? So we clear on what we want and we communicate that and communicate. But yeah, I know I know what you're saying is somewhat there. It is there. So we don't have to be sly. Why should we be sly? If we are transparent, we are doing our job fine. We are clean in what we are doing. Why should we even use this kind of sly method? We don't have to. But we are. I think Indian cultural issues. If I see, lack of openness is there. A lot of people are anti-happiness, anti-rich, anti-wealth. तो वो एक छुप छुप के वाला एक साइड से देखने वाला एटीट्यूड बहुत है. That we have to, I think we as professionals, we need to avoid that completely. I'm totally against that idea, and I get very angry if I see somebody doing that. And be smart by trying to beat around the bush, and that's not smart. It shows that we are beating around the bush, and then we are defined as sly. Then we don't like to be called that. Then we are saying, okay, no, we are also not called. We don't like the idea of being called dishonest. We are not trusted, because it's very simple. We need to know what we want. We need to say what we want. We need to be very clear on what we are offering. We need to offer that and deliver on that. Where is the need for being sly in any way? We don't have to. And build up. I mean, we learn from the American systems. They build in their money in every system. You can't cross one line after the other without paying the money. So there's no question of non-transparency. So we build that into our system, in our communications, in our dealings, in our negotiations. So there's no need for us to be fighting over it at any later point of time or doing anything hanky-panky for it. You're welcome, Abhi. No, we are not. Galaxy Tab A, we are not. But I think the way things are being worked out, we definitely have the numbers. We have the probably the technologies. But are people ready to take it on? Or are we able to? What you've asked is a very good thing. Will we be able to match the prices? I don't think at this point of time, but that's the price point has to be one of the reasons that we have to be one of the things that we have to be working on. Otherwise, we can't get the business, and I think every business knows it. The government knows it. We know what we're talking about. You're welcome, Shreya. Chandrasekhar. If someone if someone like to take entrepreneurship opportunity in training, how to go? Please guide. Oh, so we have to in training. What kind of training, Chandrasekhar? There are so many. There are quite a few. So what kind of training are you interested in? Because there is training, general training is there, training for different segments is there, different sectors are there. Then there is training for corporates, which is very specialized. Then there's training for specialized organizations, which is again equally specialized. So you will have to tell me a little bit more about what you're interested in. Then I'll maybe in a position to answer this question. Yeah. So Rashesh, I think we are done with the questions. Any more questions, please? And if I've been able to answer, if there's anything that I've meeting the industry opportunity. Quite a few. One of them is what we are doing just now, in terms of creating sound corporate systems, corporate cultures for the West to work with us, or other countries to work with us. Not just the West. I think a lot of opportunity is going to come from other parts of the world too. So there, the ones that the distinction that we can see is in the West and East is the UK, Europe, and US. And here is this side of the world, which is Asia, which we call Asia. So if you were to see comparable countries, Singapore, Japan, Hong Kong, compared to anywhere else in the world, and yeah, so we are they're comparative. The rest of them are not. So these trainings are very much needed over here. Emotional intelligence in leadership, performances. I think everything boils down to people. Performance training is going to be it could be one of the big things. It could be, and it should be something that should be focused on. And becoming a very smart person boils down to your performance. So if you were to compare yourself to an Olympian who goes there and within the 9 or 10 seconds we have a gold medal, so you can understand how much work they have done on their craft, number one, on their sport, on themselves, on being able to do something very well. So the same concept applies to everywhere. We have done trainings with corporates, bringing in the whole sports model there. How we train sports people, we also train CEOs, and we train leaders to be working in that manner. So Mr. Narendra Modi also has gone to America to train himself for 3 months to do his public presence. You see, his public presence in the beginning was very different, and after that it became very different. So how he shakes hand with Donald Trump was very different when he went and hugged Obama and when he hugged Trump. So we can learn and train ourselves. So it's something that different kind of trainings are there. It will be very close to things which AI cannot do, which technology cannot do. So it's the people skills that are going to come into picture. Your emotional intelligence is going to come into picture. The spoken skills is going to come into picture. Communication will be in there. Performances, I think, yes, definitely performances are there. Reena Chadha. Oh, so sweet. Thank you, Reena. And love to tell you. You're very welcome, Reena. And Reena, you're not Reena Chadha from SRCC, are you? I know Reena Chadha from SRCC. Rashesh, do we have any more questions?
No, I think we are good on questions. You've gone on for the last 40 minutes in terms of questions. I really appreciate.
No, it's
There's a lot of questions that have come on the board, and I really, really appreciate, Abha, the time that you've spent with the group. I
oh
am
my.
seeing on my dashboard there's a very diverse group that was there. A lot of names who I've never actually known personally as well are on
Okay.
the chat. So I really appreciate you spending this time. What I have a quick request to you, Abha, is if you could put in your contact details so that if anybody wants to reach out to you directly on an email, they can put in a message to you and probably get in touch with you for further
Sure.
engagement.
Okay, I'll put my email in there.
Perfect.
Did you earlier, Rashesh, send my website to the people on the chat?
I've sent in your profile to all of them, so all of them have your profile.
Okay, so I mean, I think if they could Google me and see my website is abhamb.com, or otherwise you can Google me and see me there. Sumit, you're very welcome. Chandrasekhar, I put my number there. If you could just add me on WhatsApp, and then we can fix a time and schedule a call.
Great. Thank you everybody for being on this call. I really appreciate. Do engage with Abha. Her website is there. I've anyway sent you her LinkedIn profile. She's very active on LinkedIn. Good idea to be in touch with her. She's come back to India, is doing a lot of workshops, doing a lot of work with the corporate world. Do attend her workshop. Right now she's in Delhi, but she's promised me that she's going to be in Bombay or somewhere in the other part of the country very, very soon.
Let me see what kind of opportunities Bombay is offering. Then I want to move to Bombay. I'm still talking to a couple of people over there, so let's see what happens.
Fantastic, Abha. Thank you so much for this time. And thank you everybody for being out here.
Thank you, Rashesh. Thank you for having me there. And thank you, everybody. Enjoyed talking to all of you. I hope it was useful.
Thank you.